let's talk reading slumps and how I never get into them. All my life, I don't really think I've ever got into a reading slump. These are my tips and tricks on how I don't get into a reading slump. They may help you, but they are not universal, okay? These are just my tips and tricks. So we are going to start with number one, and the biggest one is DNF. DNF. Say it with me. I will DNF the book I am not enjoying. There you go. Very easy. All you got to do, you think, I don't like this book, and it's not grabbing your attention, and you've given it a really good go, okay? Sometimes I've DNF'd a book on the first page. I've never really marked it as reading at that point, but I've also DNF'd a book 20 pages from the end because I'm like, I cannot do this. If you want to know, it was an Ava Reid book. If you want the tips how to DNF the book, it's very easy, guys. You can get your book. Not enjoying this. Do you know what I do? That. It's easy as fuck. I do not understand people who cannot DNF books. If you want to know and you're curious about how it's going to end, find people who've read it and ask them to spoil it for you. Google it and watch spoiler-filled reviews, and then you kind of go, oh, okay. And then you feel more justified in a DNF. Because if I'm on the fence of a DNF, I look at reviews. I was on the fence of DNFing The Darkness That Comes Before by R. Scott Baker, and I looked at some reviews and I found out that he had the whole take on the book is how patriarchy and how previous people have written and their take on women, and he's critiquing it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold out for a bit and I am going to finish it and see what kind of happens. I need to find exactly what he said because I don't know. I've just heard it from other people, but apparently he did say it. So I'm going to continue with that. That is a rare occasion. Usually I go, oh, I'm not feeling this, so I just DNF it. Tip number one, DNF your books. Just DNF them left, right and centre if you're just not enjoying them. Honest to God, it's like, just do it. Like, there's too many good books out there for you to force yourself to read these books. Tip number two is be a mood reader. And don't be afraid of reading multiple books at once. Which kind of goes in with being a mood reader, because I feel like a lot of mood readers do this. Because I've been known to be reading 12 books at once at one point. There's some non-fiction, if I want to learn something. There's some feminine rage, there's cozy, there's epic, and I can pick from each and every one of them and go, what am I in the mood for today? That is what I want to read, so I will read. And I never get into a point where I'm just like, I don't want to read, because there's always something that I want to pick. And if I'm not in the mood for anything I'm currently reading, and I look at myself and say, I really want to pick up Grace of Kings, I'll just pick up Grace of Kings. Regardless if I've got 20 that I'm currently reading, I will just do it. That's just how it's just going to be. And everybody else should just do it. I don't care if you think I'm insane. I think people who can only read one book at a time are insane, because I physically can't. I just can't. I can't do it. It's not for me. But alongside reading multiple books at once, read multiple formats. Like, if you're not feeling it or you're so tired, audiobooks. Honest to God, audiobooks save me, because there are days where I don't physically eyeball read. I don't do a Kindle and I don't do physical books. But I listen to audiobooks and they get me through my day. I am fortunate, I can listen while I'm at work. I do understand that. But sometimes I'm just like, audiobooks, and I've got a lot to do. Or I'm just too tired, I just want to sit and I listen. I don't really do that, but you can do that. You just sit and just listen to these books. Audiobooks are amazing, but also try an ebook. But also change the font on the ebook. I love Open Dyslexic personally. Tip number 3 is reread. Sometimes if I've had a bit of a fine book, like I finished it and it was okay, but it's probably been something that I would go back to. And I would kind of go, I need a banger, right? An absolute banger. So I pick a reread that I fucking love, which is usually Stormlight and The One of the Many. Those kind of books. Books that I love and I can sink my teeth into, and it will make me fall in love with reading again. So I do a lot of rereads. And I don't feel 1 ounce of guilt for my growing TBR, which is fucking huge. Huge. I don't care because I love the reread. I love the books. Tip number 3 is reread a book. My mum refuses to reread books. So, well, I've already read the story. I don't get it. Don't understand it. I do not understand how people can just not reread, because you just learn more from the story on each reread. Like, especially something like Stormlight. And I imagine Malazan as well. Even though I've only read book 1, I imagine that would be the same too. Last tip is, don't force yourself to read. I don't read every day. I don't. Sometimes on my day off, I try and have a day where I just chill, and reading physically is how I like regain my battery to go continue with the rest of the week. But sometimes I'm just like, I'm too tired and I'm just not going to read. Sometimes I'll just do YouTube, booktube stuff instead, and I just like talking about the books and talking with people online about the books and my friends about the books than me just actually reading the book. So don't force yourself to read. Just don't. So those are my tips on how to not get into a slump. Now let me tell you how you may be able to get yourself out of a slump if you are in a slump. And the big one is, if you're in a slump because of stressful stuff going on in your life, read something that gives you comfort. It could be a cozy fantasy, it could be an old favourite, it could be something that just makes you feel warm and makes you just happy. But also, because of stuff that's being really stressful in life, again, don't force yourself. If it's just too much, it's just too much. But if you still want to try and read, if you want to do something that's just a little bit like not, that just takes you away, a really good cozy, a really old favourite, audiobook it if you have to, something that just gives you that little bit of just comfort. The other one is buddy read with a friend. Pick a book you both know you are going to like, or you suspect is going to like. Pick a book. Even if you end up not liking it, you can just have fun roasting it with your friend. But buddy read it, join a read along, but don't put too much pressure on you to finish it. But it's still buddy. Sometimes just having that conversation with other people, go, oh, I really want to read this. I'm enjoying the conversation. Let me read more so I can talk about it with so-and-so. Okay? That's a big tip on how to get yourself out of a slump. But reread a favourite. Honest to God, reread a favourite. If you're in a slump and you just don't know why, like you either read a banger of a book and nothing's going to top it and you just can't pick up what to read next, or you read something that was a bit shit, which you should have DNF'd. See my point on DNFing books. Rereading a favourite just seems to bring the love back, just brings it all back, and it's great, it's amazing. Also, if you're in a slump, read something that you just wouldn't usually read. Right? Maybe pick up a thriller book, something that's fast-paced, depending on the reasons why you're in a slump. This is what you have to do first. You have to dig deep, therapize yourself, and find out why you're in a slump. Out of your comfort zone, maybe just do that. But also, if you are in a slump, don't like force yourself to read. Sometimes you just kind of go, do you know what? I'm just gonna not read for a bit, and then sometimes you come back, you'll love it even more. But the other thing about slumps is don't set a reading goal. I know, we all love the Goodreads reading goal, but do not set a reading goal. I set mine. I read a lot of books a year because of audiobooks. I can do it at work. So I can easily do 150 a year. So I always set my reading goal at something that I know I can achieve. I've known people and friends who just go, my reading goal is 1 book. Because they just want to count how many books they're reading. They're not aiming for a target. And just do exactly the same. And if it's stressing you out, just don't do it. Honest to God, don't be like, oh, I need to catch up. No, you don't. Reading's for fun. It's not a game. Because I read over 150 books every year doesn't mean because you only read 12, it's not a problem. We're both reading. Those are tips on how to not get into a slump and how to get out of a slump if you happen to find yourself in one. I do hope they help. Put your tips down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one, and happy reading.